Guys, what is up? What is up? Um, it's Monday, guys. And as always, it is definitely one of those days. Mondays are always a tough one. there's there's not really a way around it. And the biggest thing that I've learned is like you just have to go through it, guys. So, excuse me if I'm not as energetic as I normally am. Excuse me if I'm not as like have as much direction and as much clarity as I usually do. Um, but it's just one of those days. We were traveling all week or all weekend. My little sister competed in LA last weekend, so it was super cool. She ended up winning her pro card in wellness, which was awesome. But yeah, it does kind of throw you off a little bit, traveling all weekend. We ended up getting home last night at like 1:30 in the morning. So I always try my best to get my 8 hours of sleep, which put me waking up at like 9 a.m. Normally I'm a 6 a.m. kind of guy. Normally I try to wake up at 6 a.m., get my cardio in, breakfast, cold plunge, sauna, all the good stuff. Which ultimately for me that just kind of helps raise my vibration and, get me to the point where I'm excited and I'm feeling good about work so that when I do show up, all of my clients and you guys get the best of me. So, this week has been a little bit tougher because it's just kind of shifted everything, and it's fine. It is what it is. But I've just been trying to do my best to get back on as fast as possible. And I feel like this was a very similar topic to what we talked about last week, where it's like, what's like, how do you overcome that? Right? Like, how do you get started, right, guys? And like I always say, it's momentum, guys. Momentum is the key. So right now, all of my momentum's lost. I really didn't lift much or get cardio in over the weekend. I did try my best to follow my macros. So we did pretty decent there, but it's just schedule was all over the place. So it's like, really, what can you do? Um, but yeah, like definitely did my best to show up for myself and like do all the things I needed to do while showing up for my little sister and supporting her, which was it was definitely awesome. But with that being said, like now we're back in the swing of things, right? And Mondays are always tough because that momentum's gone and you just have to force yourself to show up by whatever means necessary. And like, even if you're not 100% mentally, at least you can be 100% physically. And then I feel like for me, the mental clarity aspect kind of comes after that. So, that's what I've been focusing on this week is just showing up and doing the work, making sure that I'm getting my clients everything they need and doing all the things that I need to do in order to raise my frequency and get to a place where I can be my best. And that's sometimes Mondays are just that way. Like you're not going to show up 100%, but you can at least show up 70 or 80%. And then, like I always say, Tuesday, Wednesdays are always my best days. Well, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, depending on energy, and then normally Friday, I'm like wiped from the week because I just push my body so hard and like push my well, push my body and mind so hard that like by Friday I'm like pretty cooked. Um, but with that being said, whew, I need to take a breath, guys. But I hit my 50 push-ups before this, so I might still be breathing a little bit hard plus talking. But anyways, with that being said, the biggest thing is mastering the mundane, right? This is one thing that a mentor of mine would always say. It's like mastering the mundane, right? What are the things that that you need to do in order to show up your best, right? And for me, I know sleep's a big part of it. Sleep for me, like if I haven't gotten my sleep in or I'm sleep deprived, I just am not that level headed. So sleep is a big one. Food, waking up, getting my cardio in, and cold plunging, right? So if I can nail those few things in the morning, then I know that the rest of my day is going to be better, right? And it's super easy to make excuses. It's super easy to get tired or overwhelmed or whatever the thing is. But the biggest thing is like you have to realize that that's where the results are, right? Like most people start to do the bare minimum, right? They start to show up to their 9 to 5, and it drains them to the point where they don't have any energy left in order to go do whatever it takes to further their progression, right? So whether that's showing up to the gym, doing their cardio, eating, meal prepping their food. um so essentially what they're doing is they're sacrificing the quality of their work for quantity of work. um Whereas if you can simply just realize that you need to put yourself first and then show up to work as a byproduct of that, or show up to work like after you have invested in yourself and got yourself to that state where you're in a higher frequency, you're feeling more um, enthusiastic and more like you can see the opportunities, then that's ultimately what's worth so much more. You know what I mean? And people just don't get that, right? Like low frequency, like showing up at your work at a low frequency, feeling doubtful, like all of that type of stuff, and just basically trying to cling on to whatever work, whatever the job is or whatever the money is. Like the biggest problem with that is like that's the whole point of yeah, the I don't know if I can say that. but but the reality is like if you're showing up like that, you're not helping anyone, including yourself. So the thing that you have to realize is like you have to show up as your best self every single day and just have enough self-discipline in order to do that. Otherwise, you just end up doing the bare minimum, holding on to everything that comes your way, stressed and fight or flight. Like, and trust me, everybody around you picks up on that. Whether you believe it or not, every single person around you picks up on that, because what ends up happening is when you're in fight or flight, you are short tempered, right? You are anxious, you are depressed, you are whatever the thing is. And like your energy matters to your wife, to your kids, to every single person around you, your employer. Whereas if you're able to take a breath and sit back a little bit, right? Focus more on being and know your value, and then show up as your best. And if you're able to do that over a long period of time, like it may not be instant, but over a long period of time, people are going to value you more and more as a byproduct. And that's one thing that I've consistently been trying to implement that more and more in my day-to-day life, because I feel like it's so easy to get anxious and overwhelmed, and then whatever, you start paying too much attention to the numbers and puts you in a bad mood, whatever the thing is. Like for me, it's I start to put numbers over relationships, and at that point it's not a good thing, guys. So if you can just sit back and do whatever it takes to take you to that next level, right? Take you to the point where you're in a relaxed state and you can start actually sitting back and playing chess instead of checkers, then that's where things are going to start lining up for you, right? So many people are stuck playing checkers. So many people are stuck doing the bare minimum at a 9 to 5 that drains them. But what takes more and more skill, and this is working smart versus working hard, right? And what's more valuable is that ability to take a step back and see the bigger picture nowadays, right? Whereas so many people are just focused on this cycle of showing up to their 9 to 5, getting home, and then coping with whatever their family life situation looks like. And then it's just this constant cycle of like being drained for energy. But if you can just take a step back and realize like, hey, why am I doing these things? Like, why am I showing up to this job? Why am I married? Why am I like having kids, right? And when you think of it that way, like, why am I showing up to this job, right? And when you actually think about it, it's like, well, and this is the have to versus I get to, right? Like a lot of people are like, oh, I have to go to work, I have to do this with my wife or whatever, versus I get to, right? And when you're in a state of I get to, then it shifts the perspective to I get to go to work, right? And it's more of like a gratitude thing. So I get to go to work because I want to have money to support my family. And that ultimately just shifts your job from an obligation to a, what would you even say that is? An asset? I don't know. An obligation to something that you are truly grateful for. And the reality is, like, if you can sit back and do that consistently with everything, ultimately your level of patience is going to be much better. Your energy is going to be much better. Your gratitude is going to be much better. So, so yeah, that's one thing that I've really tried to implement over the last while. And so, guys, you just have to allow yourself to relax a little bit. Sit back, play chess, right? Know that you don't have to do anything in this life. Like, I mean, the reality is you could walk out of your 9 to 5 tomorrow and you would be just fine. Like, you would still be alive. No, you're not going to die. Like, you know what I mean? And I've had a lot of these moments in my life where I've kind of had everything ripped out from under me, right? Like I've got divorced and dropped out of college and quit my job, like over and over, you know, not like, yeah. But I've just had these things ripped out from under me so many times that I've sat back, like I've literally had weeks to sit back and be like, okay, but like, did I need that job? Was that job actually getting me where I want to go? Or was it just like providing a very short-term relief by like allowing me to pay my bills? And it's the same thing with relationships, right? Like when you go through a divorce or go through a breakup or whatever the thing is, a lot of the time it kind of forces you to reevaluate what you want in a partner, right? The next time the opportunity comes around. And it's like, okay, like that last relationship, was it getting me to where I wanted to go? Like, were we building and growing together and like achieving our goals and like what we set out in this life to do? Or was it just getting me by? Like, was it just like so that I wasn't like lonely or alone or whatever the thing is? So, um, I think these are really great questions to ask ourselves, because when you do find the right thing, then it's like you can sit back and you can question it a little bit, right? Because if you're not questioning things, you're not going to be solidified in the answers. So if you sit back and question things just a little bit and be like, okay, well, is this job, career, whatever, business, relationship, is this getting me to where I truly want to be in life, right? And if the answer is yes, then the sky's the limit. You know what I mean? Like you can go all in on that, and that's where you're able to like fully validate yourself in who you are and what you're doing. Otherwise, it's just kind of like, well, I showed up for this job for a long time and made money, and your purpose behind the job or the relationship or whatever is just not really there. So, um, anyways, yeah, that's been one thing that I've always tried to keep at the forefront of my mind whenever I do anything, right? Like, because now we've got Sovereign Lifestyle and Shroom Brew, where like I'm working with clients. I've got the product-based business, even the relationship with Nevea. Like everything is like you sit back and you're like, well, do I need this? No, but I want it, right? Like, and that just brings like a whole new level of appreciation to the thing, because it's like you don't necessarily have to, you don't have to, you know what I mean? um and ultimately you're choosing that, right? So, and one of my big things is like never complain about something that you have the option to choose, right? So you hear about people complaining about their jobs and work and their boss and their their wife, their kids, like all the stuff. And like whenever I hear that now, I'm just like, you literally chose this. Like, this is America. You signed up for the job. You signed the marriage application or the marriage certificate. You know what I mean? Like all these things are like things that we have chosen. So if you can sit back and just be like, wow, okay, yes, it's hard, but I chose this. The energy just shifts. a whole lot. Just very different intentions. Anyways, I feel like I'm rambling now. I don't even know what the direction of this was. um, anyways, so if you can shift your perspective on life and everything from I have to I get to, and then show up and do the mundane little things, right? Like every morning when I'm doing cardio, every morning when I'm, excuse me, every morning when I'm in the ice bath or whatever the hard part of my morning is, I just remember like I'm one of the top natural bodybuilders in the world, and this is something that I chose, right? Like, so with that being said, the things that are going to allow me to be successful, I chose those as well. And so I actually love, like, it's the weirdest thing, but like Arnold talks about it too in Pumping Iron, how he just loves going to the gym even though it seems like suffering. It's like though that's the thing that allows you to be who you want to be and do what you want to do. So therefore, like I truly love showing up every single day and doing the things required in order to be successful, to be who I want to be. And that's the difference, right? Like if you are showing up for money every single day and you have to do all these things just to make money, I don't like money most of the time isn't enough. Like it's more like in that scenario, it's more like, oh, I'm going to sacrifice my time and my effort and suffer and like all this stuff so that I can get money. But if you flip it and you're like, well, I want money, so I want to do all of these things in order to like help me get there, then ultimately that's like the whole energy is just different. Like in your head as well, because it's like, well, I want to do the things that allow me to be successful in the areas that I want to be successful. So with that being said, I think that's we're like 17 minutes in. But anyways, yeah, my point being like, guys, if you can flip the script in your own head just for a little bit and approach everything from a position of like, hey, I chose this. And these are the things that are required to be successful in the areas that I want to be successful. As long as those things are in line, then that should work for you. Like you should be able to sit back and like play chess a little bit, see the bigger picture, and your day shifts from like an obligation to I do these things because I love them. And doing things out of love is like infinitely better than any other option. So, anyways, guys, this week focus on mastering the mundane, right? So, find the daily non-negotiables that you need to do in order to be the person that you want to be. And Mondays are always going to be hard. So, show up and do your best just to go through the motions. And then the crazy part is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it just flows. Everything's easy. Friday, you might be a little bit tired, but like things will just start to flow if you can just show up for 1, 2, 3 days straight, start stringing things together and keeping those promises to yourself. And as you master the mundane, you'll build that momentum week after week until ultimately everything just feels easy and it just flows, and you'll be amazed at what you can accomplish. So anyways, guys, like and subscribe. We'll catch you in the next one. See you guys later.